All right, it's 5 o'clock. We will call this meeting of the Water and Sewer Authority of Cabarrus County to order. The agenda looks like we have a quorum. Mr. Holloway is with us remote. So first item on the business agenda, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented to you?
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that motion carried. We have an agenda. Before we get to special recognition, I just want to take a couple of seconds to for us all to pause and remember Lynn Shue, who was a faithful board member with the Water and Sewer Authority for about 5 years, I believe. After 2 decades plus of service to our county, both on the school board and the Board of Commissioners. He was a good and faithful servant to this board, always had good questions and really had a heart for service for this community. And I don't think you could find a better public servant that really had his heart in the right place. So just, I think we made a donation to the Kidney Foundation on behalf of this group. So just want to take a few seconds to pause and us all remember Lynn. So maybe let's just take a moment of silence for that. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to special recognition. Chad.
Well, I've got one of those good fun things to bring to the board that is something I'm definitely proud to bring. We were awarded last month at the National Design Build Institute of America conference with the National Award of Merit for water and wastewater projects. So there was actually 4 projects that received that award of merit out of hundreds of projects that were considered all across the country. To make the level of this award, to reach this level, I mean, your project had to definitely stand out as a kind of best in practice, actual results type of a project for meeting the goals and the objectives and of design build in itself. So you're showing that you have demonstrated the ability to overcome obstacles, to stay on schedule, to control cost, to work together as a team, to safely deliver a project. And so very proud of the award of our team. And it's been a great project. It's been a great team effort. I still go back, I tell people all the time, I think the thing that makes this project work is we'll regularly have outside people that come in on the project that seem to struggle to figure out who works for who. And that in itself really explains why it has worked as well as it is, because everybody's focused on the project, not who they work for and their angle on that project. They're just focused on success of that project. I did have to take one for the team and have to go to Las Vegas to get this award. But it is, but I did do that. No, I did not win a lot of money, thus I'm still here this month. But it was a very impressive conference. There was almost 2,000 people in attendance from all over North America, not just the U.S., but there was quite a few people I met there from Canada, from Mexico, from actually met somebody from Dominican Republic. I did not expect that, but it was a lot of a huge conference, and our project definitely showed out very well in that. So I know George of Brown and Caldwell's here. I want to thank George is kind of the heartbeat of our project. He's the one that kind of keeps everybody on point, and he really has kept the project going and has been a huge driver of the project. And I mean, I can name 20 other people that have been huge drivers to the project, if not more. All of our staff here has been very well bought into it and really gone the extra mile to make the project work. And you as a board, I want to thank y'all for especially early on in this project. We kind of went out on a limb. We had to make some quick decisions. We had a couple board meetings. We were approving GMPs and back-to-back board meetings. We were really moving through some things, but it really turned out to be a benefit for the community. it was a successful project. So I do have the award here. We've received several other. It's going to go to the plant and be on display at the plant with our other awards. But Mike, I think they want us to get a picture together.
All right.
I can applaud all that. Yeah.
Team members there, besides you.
So we had several from Crowder, we had several from Brown and Caldwell. I was only WSACC representative that was there, but Brown and Caldwell was actually there was 4 projects in that category, and Brown and Caldwell was actually the engineer for 3 of them. So and one thing I found about, if you want to win the biggest top award, you've got to have renewable energy in it, and you've got to have some community involvement impact project as part of your project. Because every project that won, they had those.
Don't we know all about energy projects?
Yes, yes. I told them we would stick with the award of merit instead of going for the.
Any chance of being in the running for a second award, the next expansion?
Correct. Well, actually, yes, I think so. And it's going to be a unique deal because we're going to have a different story to sell with this project, because the first project was really post-COVID pricing, delivering, getting equipment on site, staying on schedule. You know, it was really, that was the challenge. This next phase, those were still challenges, but now it's more of getting into the heart of a plant while it's operating and converting it from a high purity to a blower setup, staying in compliance, staying in operation. It's going to be a different level of obstacles that had to be overcome in that. And yes, I think our project will show very well from that standpoint as well. So us and Crowder and Brown and Caldwell are all excited to present this the phase 4 for these same type of awards as we conclude the project.
Great.
Congrats, good job to
Thank you.
the whole team.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have some unfinished business, the minutes from the October 15th meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Approve.
Motion to second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Okay, moving to reports, Thomas, give us a CIP update.
Sir. Get it pulled out for it there. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we continue to stay busy with our CIP projects, our studies, and our upcoming projects. So wanted to bring you an update on that this evening. So several projects we'll go through, the Rocky River plant expansion, some collection system projects, both construction, new construction and rehab. Our 2 studies that are still in process and upcoming RFQs that we're looking towards over the next little while here. So in terms of the treatment plant expansion, things completed last month. EQ tank number 2, which is a large 12 million gallon storage tank out there, completed hydrostatic testing for that. They're backfilling around that tank now. To give you an idea of how big that tank is, that's a months-long backfill operation to do that. Continued concrete rehab work at Aeration Basin 4. As Chad mentioned, we are into the heart of the existing plant. We are dealing with nearly 50-year-old structures as we get into all that. Excavation work at some of the vaults around the plant. Mechanical work at the main pump station. So we are putting in 2 pumps there, replacing 2 existing pumps with 2 new bigger pumps. Doing a lot of work with the valves and piping in the bottom of that. So that's kept staff busy with the coordination for all those things while keeping that pump station running. The primary and secondary clarifiers, we're continuing rehab work with those. And we did complete our move-in into the new interceptor building, which makes space for the scum pump station that will be where the office trailer sat previously. So into the next month, again, we'll continue backfilling around EQ tank number 2. The primary clarifier coating, secondary clarifier rehab is going to continue. Concrete and reinforcing steel work, both the new work for anoxic zone at Aeration Basin 4 and the rehab within existing Aeration Basin 4 continue. Electrical work at our dissolved air flotation thickener building That's why we call it the DAF, because it's a mouthful otherwise. The main pump station work will continue with those new pumps and piping. And punch list items for some facilities that are complete and online at this point: the RAS pump stations, our new gravity thickeners, our new thick and sludge pump station, and our interceptor building.
And I know we jumped over this project quite a bit now, like we're not giving every single month update stuff, but just so you know, there's about $4 to $6 million a month worth of work still going on out there. So I mean, it's still a very heavy lift in the amount of work that's taking place on that site daily, so.
Yes, and visually, just walking around the site, the number of people engaged out there doing the work, the number of excavations open, concrete trucks, day in, day out, there's a ton going on.
Understanding the importance of the equalization tanks, is there any work or rehab that's gonna be done on the number one tank?
No, so since that's a good question. Since that's a new tank, we don't anticipate really anything there. We are having to make a tie-in to that tank. So we've got things kind of stubbed out and ready to go for that. But otherwise, it'll be kind of operation as normal with that one. Sure.
So the new pumps in the pump station are part of the phase 4 expansion?
Yes, sir. So that will give us more influent pumping capacity from the Irish Buffalo and Coldwater Interceptor side of things.
And those are how many horsepower replacing how many horsepower?
Okay, so our new ones are 645 that are going in there, 645 horsepower, replacing the 385 horsepower. Thank you. Sir.
A 645 horsepower, two 645 horsepower pumps to go along with the two 500s, 600s that are there. So we will have about 2,500 horsepower worth of pumping capacity in that pump station. Yeah. I think that's about right there.
To give you an idea, those new pumps showed up on the truck last week in a full-size tractor trailer. It was basically just those two pumps laid on their side. Our Lower Cottle Creek parallel interceptor, we are continuing to work on the construction phase services for that with our engineer and contractor there. You can see they have encountered some rock particularly, and that's been really throughout this project, but this is towards the upstream end of the project, I believe. So they've completed about 10,000 linear feet of that pipeline to date. And they've got 3 crews total working out there with that. So 3 crews in 3 different areas doing this work right now, moving along kind of slow but steady. They are going to continue installation of that pipeline, continue coating manholes, and the drilling and blasting crew is continuing their work as well.
So Thomas, when you say slow and steady, is it slow because of the rock?
Yes, sir. So this is we've had 2 projects going on, and I'll talk about Back Creek, 2 collection system construction projects. Back Creek was a smaller pipe with a lot less rock in that area. It just, they just flew through that, that contractor did. This has been a lot of rock, a lot of boulders as well. So they've had areas where they've shot the rock, then they've come back to do excavation, and the boulders that they missed are still a problem.
In the way.
Right, are still in the way. So they've done some things like the rock hammering, they've done some additional blasting, kind of all of the above to work through that. But again, they do have 3 crews at this point, and have had for a little while now, so that's really helpful.
And with them installing 48-inch pipe, they're excavating about a 6-foot wide trench.
Yes.
In most cases, 14 to 20 foot deep. So just the excavation in itself, even when you're not in rock, it's still.
Oh, that's 12 foot wide.
They've got a big boy. I think some big boys out there. They do. They do.
And I'm gonna guess Hampton Chase Drive, you're not too far from houses here.
Yes.
Right, that's correct. So the rock hammer they brought in, I think specific to some of those areas were a little bit closer to houses.
And it was some real shallow rock, I think, too. So it makes it.
Right, makes that tougher.
Well, surely we anticipated at least encountering some rock.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Yes.
So that's part of the project. Certainly, it's nothing extra. It's just something that it's a lot more, I think, than they were hoping to encounter, especially after the initial round of blasting moving through. So Back Creek Parallel Interceptor. This project is substantially complete at this point. As of September 19th, we issued that in October, but recognizing that it was complete in September. The contractor is completing a few remaining punch list items there. So this runs all the way out to Hickory Ridge Road in the Harrisburg area. And so we are going to be moving through final inspection. Right now, we're scheduling that with Black and Beach for early December, or that is scheduled rather for early December, and complete those final closeout documents. This was ARPA funding, and so we've got a number of permits and then the ARPA requirements themselves to close out.
So what's in the box on the bottom right?
Sure. So we have an existing line running through that area already. So we've got a series of interconnection vaults, and they've got stop logs in them, so we can insert more stop logs or take some out to make flow more or less likely to share between the two pipes. So that's one of the interconnection vaults. Rocky River Sewer Rehab, HDR is continuing the plans and specs for that project. This project runs from Highway 29 now all the way up to the county line where Rocky River crosses into Mecklenburg County. We were able to kind of add that piece into there again with ARPA money, and to expand the area that this was looking at basically. We did issue an RFQ, a request for qualifications for easement acquisition services. Kevin will talk with you about that in a little bit here. The selection team is recommending professional property services for that, but you'll hear more about that in a minute. This is for some remaining easements along the way there that will help with this project and into the future. We did work with Dukes to complete some CCTV inspection. Our staff did a lot of it. We didn't have all the equipment and all the things we needed for some of these pretty difficult areas to get to and pretty difficult flow conditions. So Dukes did some of that. They've completed that. We have assisted with some additional manhole inspection as necessary. And so next steps relate to the easements. Again, pending that item in a few minutes here. And HDR will submit their plans and specs to us for review for the overall project here very soon. For the master plan and MPDES permitting, Black and Beach has submitted an updated draft engineering alternatives analysis. This is a key piece that we need to submit this engineering alternatives analysis to the state as a precursor to submitting our application for formal permit limits pages at 36 MGD and 45 MGD. We reviewed that and we returned comments in early November. We have talked with them since then about our comments. They anticipate providing us the final version of that document very soon here within the next week or so. So they will submit that final EAA to us for review. We'll continue to consider impacts from nutrient limits from DEQ and the spec limits and coordinate that with Brown and Caldwell's work in the wastewater treatment facilities plan. Following our review and any changes that are needed to the EAA, we will submit the EAA to DEQ, to the state, for their review. And then following DEQ's approval of the EAA, got all the acronyms in this one, we will submit the permit application for the new limits pages at 36 and 45.
What's the time frame on what you just went over, those 4 bullet points?
Sure. So we have relative certainty about a couple of them. So the final EAA, talked with Black and Beach actually this morning, was our last conversation. They feel like in the next week they're going to have that to us. Our remaining comments were pretty just distinct and individual, so I anticipate that's going to go pretty well there. And if it does, then by say early to mid-December, I would imagine we could submit that EAA to the state for their review. And from there, it's in the state's hands for that review. We do have a permit renewal coming up for Rocky River. And so after we submit the EAA to the state, we're going to call the state and say, hey, do you think you'll have this reviewed in time for us to include all this with one application? Because the application for renewal and the application for the expanded permits pages are very similar. And so do you think you'll have it in time for us to do that? Or do we go ahead and submit our renewal application and do the other separately? So I think that will tell us a lot about what they expect for their time frame.
Okay, thanks.
So our wastewater treatment facilities plan and preliminary engineering report. There are two primary pieces here. The conceptual design for Muddy Creek, which Brown and Caldwell is finalizing, based on a few comments for us. They should have that to us very soon here. And we have also requested a formal intermediate permit limits page for 0.66 MGD at Muddy Creek. And so we sent that into the state. So we've got a permit limits page for 0.3 that we're operating under right now. We've got a permit limits page for 1 MGD, and this will just give us that additional page in the middle of those two. So we'll end up with 3 permit limits pages once we get a response to this request.
And this is the same thing we did when we had the 34 million gallon a day permit and the 26.5, and we asked for 30 in between. So that precedence has been set with us working with them. It should be a pretty
I mean,
straightforward.
that should be just a formality, right?
It should be pretty straightforward.
You've already got it. You're just saying we need it now.
We need an actual page that says at 0.66 MGD, this is your limits. And right now we don't have that, but it should be a formality, just a process of, it's hard to say, is it gonna take 2 months or is it gonna take 5 months? You know what I mean? It's gonna take a few, but it's not gonna take years.
And we expect the design build can move forward. It does not depend on the receipt of this page. The designers have enough information on the effluent performance we've got to have to be able to move forward with that. So at Rocky River, Brown and Caldwell is continuing their conceptual design for expansion tiers at Rocky River up to 54 MGD. And so we're still expecting that around the end of this year for that deliverable. And so our next steps, Brown and Caldwell is going to complete that conceptual design for Rocky River expansion to 54 with those different tiers involved. Finalize the Muddy Creek conceptual design, which we just talked about. And then for DEQ for the state to respond to our request for those formal limits page, or for that formal limits page at 0.66 MGD. So now we're into the section on kind of upcoming RFQs, things that we are actively pursuing right now. So again, we've got an updated conceptual design as of early October for 0.66 MGD. Brown and Caldwell is finalizing that now. And so next steps towards the request for qualifications for design build services on this job are to complete the conceptual design. We're going to fold that conceptual design in behind the RFQ document for design build services and advertise that to interested teams that will propose on that. We'll review those proposals and then we'll come back to this board with discussion on that review and how all of that went and what we would recommend from there.
So what is this that you're showing on this slide?
Sure. So this is the conceptual design layout for Muddy Creek.
I didn't think it was complete yet.
Well, as it stands right now, So George, I don't think our layout really is changing. I'm putting you on the spot, but.
It hasn't, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So Brown and Caldwell is just refining their conceptual design. This is technically from the alternatives analysis piece, but it shows just the outline of the new structures. And this should not be changing appreciably between now and the completion of that conceptual design. That said, the design build folks will take a look at this as they get a hold of this project. They'll take a look at this, that team will, and they may have recommendations. So we'll sort through those as we get into that process.
Who is your is Union Electric the power supplier there?
No, surprisingly, it's Duke.
Okay.
So we're out in the country, but it's Duke, correct?
And there are no issues with the power supply?
So we believe so last time we expanded, we had to put in a new transformer then with Duke, and we believe we'll have to do that again this time. But as far as the supply that's available to that point, we don't anticipate issues.
And then the other question is the access road getting into there. You think with the construction, this type of construction, you'll need to make any improvements to it?
There are certain areas where we may, I don't think on a wholesale, overall basis, we'll have to do too much, but certainly probably as we get towards the end of this project, we'll need to dress that up again for sure. But
Years ago, the Blows, or at least their neighbors, the subdivision to the north had some issues with the drainage pipe where the road
Sure.
accesses the main road, which I never really understood because it's kind of at a peak and couldn't get
Right.
a lot of water going through there. but
Right.
think you'll probably hear from them.
Okay. Well, we have addressed some things as part of the last expansion in 2018, some dust concerns out there and some traffic concerns. And so, I imagine we'll have some similar things, probably just more, we'll have some more traffic this time.
Yeah.
Thomas, I know currently there's the one MGD permit that's issued for Muddy Creek, and we've probably already talked about it, but going back and obtaining that intermediate sheet limit there for the 0.66, that's not gonna expose us to any of the nutrient limits.
No, we understand that it will not. We understand that's kind of grandfathered up to that one MGD tier.
Okay.
So when we get that limits page back, we will then have 3 pages. We'll have 0.3, 0.66, and 1. We'll be able to have all those in. So that RFQ will be coming out fairly soon here, just getting the conceptual design done. The RFQ itself is 10 or 11 pages that kind of sit on top of that. And then letting these interested design build teams chew on that and provide their statements of qualification back to us.
And there has been a lot of interest in the project.
Yes.
A lot of interest in the project, so.
Lots of interest and visits and all that, so.
So are we changing the treatment process at Muddy Creek, or is it staying the same?
So it will still be biological treatment. These new basins over here to the, see this right there, those new basins. They will actually be an MLE process, which is similar to what we're doing at Rocky River right now. That is still a biological treatment process, still removing a lot of the same nutrients. It has some benefits in terms of hopefully reduced chemical usage for us, because the biology itself helps to retain some of the alkalinity through all that. So, but otherwise, it is a biological treatment plant. Will remain that. We'll still have filters, still have UV disinfection. So many of the things will be very similar.
And I assume those basins are in addition because we're keeping what we have.
We are keeping what we have, but we're actually planning to convert those to sludge holding tanks. And so one issue we have out there is that we need to empty the existing sludge holding tanks fairly frequently. They're fairly small compared to the flow and all that. So we're planning to convert the basins that are here, those rectangular basins there, to aerated sludge holding tanks. And then these basins, on the left side of the page that we pointed out just a minute ago, will be the biological treatment. And I believe we have one more here. So on the Mount Pleasant force main upsizing effort, that was identified in the CIP as a near-term project as well. This involves replacing an 8-inch force main with a 16-inch force main from Mount Pleasant Station 1 out to the intersection of Cold Springs Road and Highway 49. And so this force main runs from Station 1, which is kind of behind the Oldenburg subdivision, over to Station 2, which is near Mount Pleasant Road and Cold Springs Road, where they intersect, and then goes all the way down Cold Springs Road to the intersection of 49. And so we will do an RFQ for this one as well. We anticipate pursuing a design build RFQ for this one also.
And we've actually experienced in the last, 6 to 9 months, we have had 2 failures of this pipe that luckily have not been worse than they could have been. And that's just due to the age of this pipe. Installed early 80s. So again, this is in that 45-year-old PVC pipe that is being pushed pretty hard. So it's capacity driven, but it's also even if we didn't need additional capacity in that area, this line would have to be replaced.
How much flow do you think comes through there every day?
About 200,000 gallons a day. Yep. So it's definitely a condition and capacity driven project.
So are your green boxes pump stations?
Yes, they are.
So what's the one above up on 49?
So I guess for clarity on this picture, we don't show, this is pump station 3, our pump station 3. There's a force main that runs down 49, if you can imagine it, to where it says project start here. And then it joins up with the force main that discharges from these 2. And so, that one doesn't get touched as part of this project. Flows on that, although they're increasing, they're still very low compared to the capacity of that station. And so we're focusing really on stations 1 and 2 here and that force main along Cold Springs Road.
But that's the station that serves the high school, among other things.
High school and the new developments, Green Acres and Brighton Park.
So is the work on the creek just north of this, that's a Mount Pleasant project?
Yes, so they, Mount Pleasant is working on an Adams Creek, gravity line that actually ties into our pump station where it says Project End. Their new gravity line ties all the way in.
Is there any pump work replacement going on, conditioning as well, or is this just line?
Sure, we had a question about that today. So, the design build folks will do some hydraulic modeling, to confirm that. Right now, we're kind of backed up on the pump curve, as we would say, meaning that we've got a lot of pressure we're pumping against through a small line. And so the preliminary modeling says that if we use the larger line, the pumps run farther out on the curve. They pump more flow through through that line. Since it's a larger line, they have less resistance. So right now, we don't anticipate that we'll have to replace those pumps, but we will have some more modeling done by the folks that are the design build team for this project. I believe that was all I had for that. Yes, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thomas, can you remind me how these things, all the things with the Rocky River plant tie together? So we have a master plan. 36 and 45, Black and Beach is doing that. Alternative analysis report that we'll get to the state in early December. Do we adopt that after the state has approved?
So
Is there any adoption?
no, there's not an adoption at the board level. So what would follow the EAA going in the engineering alternatives analysis is the formal permit limits application page for 36 and 45 MGD. And so we would do that as well. And of course, we'll bring you reports along the way, but there's not a formal adoption required for that.
Okay, and then, Brown and Caldwell are doing conceptual design for, 54.
Yes, sir.
And how that would tier.
Right.
But obviously, those are two separate things, and I'm not sure the timing. And then we have the third, which is all the jurisdictions are doing our own volume comparisons to figure out what we're gonna ultimately pick up to. How do those things blend together?
Sure. So the Brown and Caldwell work, well, let me start with the Black and Beach work. The engineering alternatives analysis, the permit application, that will give us those formal permit limits pages for 36 and 45 MGD at Rocky River. And so that gives us the ability to move forward at whatever time, the board wills towards that.
Towards up to 45.
Yes, towards up to 45. Yes, and then what Brown and Caldwell is doing is the conceptual design, saying, okay, physically, what will we need out there to meet the speculative limits that we've seen at 36, 45, and even to 54. And so they're looking at all that. They'll have that layout, the general cost estimates, the equipment descriptions, those sorts of things. So at any point that we, this board would like to, we can pick that up and move that towards further design or implementation of Rocky River.
Would we have to go back and amend the master plan for anything above 45 based on Brown Caldwell's work they're gonna do between 45 and 54?
No, I don't think we need to amend the master plan. The state is looking at flow projections, when they're considering your eligibility for increased flow tiers. We've seen no obstacle to that with them so far based on what we've provided.
Okay, so do you think we'll be able to, with the master plan done by the state, we'll be able to move into any design, engineering, construction up to 45, and there's no impediment from 45 to 54 other than Brown Caldwell's work on conceptual design, us saying what are we going to need from a jurisdiction level to come up with the money?
Sure. Yeah. So relative to Rocky River, 36 and 45 are the next natural tiers there. As Chad's talked about, we could have some tier kind of intermediate to those. But getting the permit limits pages for 36 and 45 will allow that to move forward. And then we will request speculative limits for 54 as well, once we get past kind of the EAA and the permit limits request process for the formal limits. 54 was not bracketed within the initial water quality modeling. So requesting the limits to 54 was going to be a much slower process. So that's why we picked those tiers at 36 and 45. And then go ahead and get those formal permits limits pages and then get the speculative limits to 54.
But there isn't any work outside of Brown and Caldwell's scope that we need to get the 54.
Yeah, that would be, getting to 54 would be a heavy lift. That would be a significant undertaking to get the permit in hand for 54 MGD.
Sure, that's beyond our current scope right now, but we will request a speculative limit, so we'll know kind of their bounds that they're looking at for us at 54.
Will they already know that, or will we have to do more modeling for that?
We will need to do more modeling for that, and so that's the reason that it made sense to go ahead and get the limits for 36 and 45. Those are kind of the stepping stones towards the 54, for example. And so we'll need to do some more modeling for that, and then to request those limits based on that modeling.
And from past experience, I don't think we could get the state to give us a permit for 54 at this point with our growth rates and our flow at where it's at. When we were at Muddy Creek, looking for wanting the 1 MGD at Muddy Creek, it was an extreme pull. They didn't want to give us more than, I think, 680,000.
Well, we were between
630?
500 and 600 range.
Because they're looking at, well, you've been growing 10,000 gallons per day per year. Your flow is at this. To get to 1 million's gonna take you 60 years, or I don't, some extreme amount of time. And we had to convince them that there was a lot of area for growth. If the capacity was there, then it would be met. So, in our instance where we have a proven history of growing about 400,000 gallons a day per year, when you look at the amount of years it would take to start utilize 45, much less get into 54, it would be a heavy lift to get there. Not saying we can't. I'm just saying it wouldn't be a simple thing to do, like requesting an intermediate permit page or doing something like that. Speculative limits, that shouldn't be a problem to be able to get speculative limits to that, but to get a final permit page would be.
What does that provide us, speculative limits at 54?
Well, it gives you an acknowledgement or by the state of basically this is what we would anticipate your limits are going to be at 54. This is what it allows you then to know to what level you're going to have to treat to at that point in time. So it's more of a planning document, I would say, as much as anything.
Or new technologies that
Correct.
must be included in order to
Correct.
get to those levels, so you would have to
Correct.
have.
Correct.
And so assume we're sitting here in February, Concord, Kannapolis, Harrisburg have come back and said, we need 50. What's the path to get there? What needs to be added to these steps?
I haven't heard anything that would indicate that that's
I don't know how
even remotely a possibility of happening.
But I know what I've asked. So here's what we have to reckon.
Yeah.
You guys just went through this in Concord, and a few months ago, we did conditional rezoning, and part of the holdup for that is we don't have sewer allocation. Kannapolis has been through this. I've certainly been through it in Harrisburg, where on one hand, people come in and they say, hey, I want this. We want to build this. And we go, well, we just don't have the capacity. Then we come in here and talk to the state and we go, you guys never hit capacity with what you got already. So how do we reconcile that when we're telling that story to the community, to developers that are going to our state legislators and saying, we want to get rid of all planning and zoning rules for the entire state because we're restricted through these means and methods? One of those two has to be true. Either we're out of sewer or we're not. And so one of those two things has to be
And to
fixed.
affect the political environment of that as well. So
I certainly am.
trust me, we are too. So, I mean, I don't think you can rectify it without taking that into consideration. So I think part of the problem is also, I mean, we all just had elections. And I think we also have to sit around this table too and see if these elections are gonna could potentially make the discussions of what, because we can't, I mean, I think the whole reason that you, Chad, brought it, that it was like the municipalities have to be the ones making the decisions as to how much growth. And so And I think that's the right way to do it. So I don't think we can at this board sit here and say, we need to make that decision. The municipalities are gonna be the ones, because we've got to, I mean, we gotta take it back to our board. They're the ones that have to be able to say, we've got the appetite for putting this amount of money on our ratepayers. And that's where we're getting pushback. And rightfully so. By the way, I'm part of that pushback because we can't, there's no way right now without the god awful word of impact fees, there's no way for anybody else to pay for this except for our existing customers. And I just think 54, I don't, that's not even on our radar. Just our, from perspective of where we're at in Concord, so.
What does Concord think they're gonna need conservatively?
We haven't gotten to that point.
Yeah, I mean, we're
We've got
kind
new
of-
council members.
I don't know how we can say we're not at 54 though, if we don't, if you guys have no idea. And
Oh, we
Yeah,
have an
stuff.
idea. It ain't near 54 when we're carrying 60%. I can tell you that. Do you agree with that,
Y-
Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of trying to do it backwards and it's leading to some really amazing, really smart, people they talk about smart growth and what the heck is smart growth, right? And I think we're getting there, understanding what's a healthy growth rate to keep us going, but not so high that it's all these other side effects are just catastrophic. And I think we're honing in on that, but, I think we are gonna be, with the way our discussions have gone, I think ours is gonna be a lot more of a reasonable, 2 to 3% growth rate. But so to your point though, we may get to 54, but that means the rest of the jurisdictions are covering, you know, 15 of that.
Well, and that's a dilemma we've never faced before either, of having a major capital project that we don't all agree on. We've always found a way that everybody's on the same page, but this is so big, we have a split board, we could have split jurisdictions. It gets into some serious discussions we've never had to have.
My fear is we don't get to 9. Is my fear. Just, and maybe not. I mean, maybe there's differences, than what our discussions have been, but,
you're saying not get to 45 from 36?
unless we overextend where we want to be, that we all come back with what our numbers are, we add them up and we're at 6.5, like
Yeah.
what do we do then? But again, maybe that won't happen, but just judging where we think we are, if we get 9, if we go 9, we're not going to be 60% of that 9. I don't think we're anywhere near that, so.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, we're you know, we're nowhere near what you guys are. You're just a much larger entity, but proportionally,
Yeah.
we want to be probably a lot bigger than that 10%. And we understand we're gonna pay for that.
Yeah, you may get your wish.
Yeah, well, no, and that's, I think, you know, Chad came up with a great solution.
Which means we have to restructure our agreements and figure out a way that we do that, because we're working on an old model that may not be viable. And to whoever said it's up to the jurisdictions, you did. That's what it is. I mean, I think it's gonna be the reverse. The jurisdictions have to decide what their appetite is, and then this board has to respond to that, figure out how to make that happen.
And does 1 + 1 = 2?
Right, and it may not.
But I do think that, to your point, Rob, if that presented itself as we're sitting there, there's a clear path kind of outlined and our jurisdictions are committed to the fact that within the next 15 years, we need to be at 54. Okay, we're not going to go straight to 54. So during that time period, we would go to 36, we would go to 45. And during that time period, while we're doing that, we would be working on doing the lift to obtain that permit to 54. That we wouldn't have to have that permit in hand before we started the next phase to 36 or the phase to 45, those are going to be long duration, big lift construction projects. So we would work ourselves to that 54 permit during that process.
Well, I assume, I mean, obviously you're telling the people questioning about allocation, the 30, 34, 36, 45. But the other part of that then is, right now, Harrisburg is roughly 10% of that, each one of those increases, but I guess the other answer is Harrisburg could be higher. From here, it could be a higher percentage.
And before we keep playing musical chairs in here, but you know, before then, we talked, what does that look like? If Harrisburg's 33%, if we're gonna do 6 MGD, we'd like 2 million of that.
Mhm.
And we're gonna pay 33% of it if that's what it, I mean, that's just what you do. Like, if now, if Concord doesn't, you know, have that type of growth, because they're you know, more built out entity, and it's like, hey, we're only looking at maybe 4, we won't need 2. Kannapolis only needs, you know, 1. We all pay our proportional share. It really makes people look right at their number too, right? Like you're you're buying it, whether you use it or not, you're buying it. So, you know, make sure your number's good and go from there rather than saying, well, you know what, Harrisburg really needs 2. So we need you guys to come up with 12. You don't need 12. But we're only 10%, so we need you to get 60% of 20.
The other piece of your concern is more, I heard you talking about the new ways of planning and zoning, and there's already movements to increase the base densities within cities, within rural areas. Dictate that to the local jurisdictions, which of course that's the way it works in North Carolina. I mean, I think there's a value at some point as you go through all these discussions is to get the local delegation and have all the community say. And these are all the kind of things we're having to work with. And if you create different rules at the state level, it makes it even more difficult.
Well, and we're doing that. So I meet with our 4, say, hey, look, this House bill, the omnibus bill, this is an abomination. And how dare you? Like, what are you guys thinking? We're sitting here trying to build a wonderful community, and you're taking away every single tool that we have. And then they come in and say, well, Rob, I know, but the you know, Rebic is in Raleigh every day telling me how you guys won't let anything go through. Every time they put something through, you're like, we don't have this, we don't have sewer, we don't have, and they're right. We don't. But then we come back here and we go, man, I don't know that we'd even use what we got. We don't need any more capacity. So it becomes very confusing circular argument that I think
I'm curious who you're saying is not using their capacity. We're out.
Well, no, Chad, at the beginning,
I
a
mean,
few
I know that.
months ago said,
It's already been distributed and but as far as I'm concerned, everything for current expansions is gone. I mean, it's allocated to the jurisdictions and our own.
up to 36.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
saying Lamas.
Beyond that, it's just a money game.
But then my question, when we look at the master plan, and I go, I think that's low. Let's all look at our numbers, because maybe we're just outpacing and those numbers are good. But at the beginning of this meeting, it's like, well, what about 54? Well, state wouldn't even consider it because they don't think we're ever gonna get there. It's one of these things true. We're either never gonna get there or we can't get there quick enough. And that's why we're holding people back. But we can't have that cake and eat it too. We can't be, you know, out of capacity and not need any more.
And I appreciate you're having these discussions, but I think all of the communities together having the same discussion with a local delegation would make a lot of sense. Because then they're hearing, it's going to be complicated to understand, but then they're not just hearing it from the building industry.
Oh, I agree that is helpful, but you know, you've been here a long time, you know our politics. So
Beat my head against a wall. Every once in a while it works.
we've gotten into the smallest groups that are effective, largest groups that are effectively possible. And you know, we've got to do something, but I think that is a legitimate complaint that folks have, is they're not sure, do we have capacity or not? Because, you know, this is a public meeting, it'll be broadcast, and we'll look at it and we'll say, hey, we're never getting to 54. But then we say, sorry, we're restricted, we need to go through this special process of applying, and we'll weed out who's good and who's not. And so I know that in our jurisdiction, we have a hard cap number, and we can't go above that. So something's holding it back, but apparently whatever that is, it's holding its back. It's not good enough justification to go to get additional permits to get more capacity.
And if I said, or it came across the way that we could never get 54, I don't mean that we cannot ever in the future get 54. I just mean right now, I don't know that the data is available to support 54. When you look at the fact that Cabarrus County in the last 20 years has grown 5 million gallons a day in flow, 16 of those years being unrestricted growth. We've grown 5 million gallons of actual flow in 20 years. But then the state looks at that, that's a factor that they look into of how much are you gonna grow? How fast are you gonna utilize your capacity into the future?
But is any of that governed by what Mike said, which is, for the past 5 years, we've been out. We allocated it.
Yeah, and allocating and actually use are,
Yes.
as we know, two different animals.
Understood.
And that's probably the part of
That's
the
the problem.
confusion. So setting it aside that could ever be used for anything else versus actual flow, or that's a confusing concept, especially for some that aren't doing it every day.
I want to make sure we're not missing the boat on the data that we're going to be getting from jurisdictions.
Yep.
And look, maybe that data says, hey, it doesn't all add up to 9. We're good. 45 is great. That's good. Jurisdictions control their own destiny. Some of these are political decisions. Some are economic development decisions. It is what it is, sign of the times, issues. Well, whatever that number is, we get to it, and then it has to be our data that we're submitting to the state. And if it's 48, we've got a problem, because we need to get back and
Well, we wouldn't, because we just know we need more than 45, so we want to go to 45. And while we're going to 45, we want to work on our permit beyond 45. So it would just educate us to where we're at, because we wouldn't go straight to 54 anyway. We would go in increments, so we're spending our money when it's needed, not trying to not sink as much cost into any infrastructure that's going to sit there and not be utilized.
yeah, of course, but if we have additional master plan, additional modeling, additional permit work to do above that, I just want to make sure we have scoping, that we're prepared for that. So that was leading into the question. I know we got long-winded on your end, but it was like, okay, the master plan. Yeah. That will all work. Then you've got the jurisdictions. Which is the chicken, which is the egg.
We do, if I may, we do plan to submit the speculative limits request for 54, as part of this overall process. The clear current path with the EAA that's readily available is to get to 45, and that will be substantial. That will provide options for substantial expansion, and then to request those spec limits to 54 and keep moving from that.
All right, good discussion, good questions. All right, we will move on to new business. Wendy, we got a capital project ordinance for Muddy Creek.
Approval for the capital project ordinance for Muddy Creek wastewater treatment plant expansion project. Right now, the numbers that we have is $21,320,000. Of that, it would all come from grant funds in our 69 million allocation. The 10,835,000 is required to be used for this project, and then we would be adding an additional 10,485,000 of our available funds, available grant funds for this project to cover the whole project at 21 million. If I'd answer any questions.
This may be for Thomas or Chad. What's the early project budget? Does it align closely with this?
That is the driver of this, is the
mean,
early budget cost estimate.
Fairly confident this is the right ultimate number. We won't know, obviously.
Sure. Once we get into the design build effort, we'll start with that, just like with Rocky River Pre-Construction Services. At the end of that, we'll have a GMP or a couple GMPs and estimates along the way. And so for that design build team to get engaged, will be key to refine this number, but that's our conceptual design estimate for right now.
And
Go ahead. No,
to clarify kind of how that's going to work, to make sure the board fully understands, we will select a project team and issue a pre-construction services amount of, say, $1 million or $1.5 million. That is for the team to work together to advance that design from the conceptual 15-20% design to a 60% design. Once you have that 60% design, the project team itself is going to present to you a cost estimate to deliver that team and what that ultimate GMP would cost to deliver that project. As an owner, you have the option at that time, to be like, no, we do not like that cost. We don't like the way this is handled. We're pulling back from this and we're gonna finish the design with another team and we're gonna hard bid it. Or, you've got options there, but that will be a set amount that the board will approve that is not $20 million. It's not that it will be $1 million, $2 million that will advance that design to the point that then you get, this is what the GMP is to deliver and complete the project. And we anticipate that to be I would say probably a 9-month process.
I imagine late next year if we're able to get started early, in 26.
If by chance we come in under budget here, there are restrictions on these funds, Wendy, are we limited?
Available funds, as long as it's over the 10.8, then we can use that for another project. It'll just free that up for.
The state appropriation, we could do anything with?
Yes.
There's, they're just those couple of projects, so it was 69.9 and then it was 11 million and 10.8 is the 11 million less the 1.5% fee that the state kept to administer the project or the grants. And then, there's 1.5 basically for the Kannapolis primary loop, and then the rest of that is available for what we choose. And now we've allocated about 30 million for phase, or the 34 MGD project.
What was the total amount that we approved in the CIP previous meeting for this project?
In the CIP, it was 18,845,000. So we're, I guess, looking at it further, the cost increase.
Right, and between the CIP, a couple months ago here and our current stage, conceptual design has progressed. Again, this is not a hard bid, this is not the actual number, paid for this project or to be paid for this project. It's just the current estimate from conceptual design.
Okay, just memory serves me, I feel like this has gone, I never remember seeing 21, that's
Sure.
why I asked about it, but at some point I think it was 14. And 18.
Very, very early on, we were going to a smaller number. We weren't going to 660,000 gallons. And though, when it was just a placeholder number that we hadn't done any actual engineering on.
Is it fair to say that even though we've seen it grow, as the design tightens and the parameters get a little bit clearer, you could also see it retract and go the other way?
We could see that, the design build team selected for this that will advance that pre-construction services, they will have some different ideas. And we'll consider those, along the way. Some might be great and we want to pursue them. Some might not be, good for us to pursue. But yes, that will, budget, and timing for the project will both be focuses of that.
Obviously, we would much rather deliver the project at 16 million than 20 million. I mean, so that's gonna be the goal.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we have, I need a motion to approve the capital.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. All right, Kevin, gonna talk about, sewer rehab acquisition services.
It's a fun one. So as the design has progressed on the Rocky River Sewer Rehab project, we found it increasingly difficult to get access to some of these remote sections. This is the nature of the development around those areas. At this point, working with our project team, we've identified 23 permanent access easements that, once secured, will provide both easier access for our future construction crews and easier access for our interceptor staff so they can maintain the collection system. So we then began working with professional property services after they were unanimously selected during that RFQ process. PPS is aware of the state law guidelines and federal guidelines for securing easements, as this is ARPA funding. Their easement or their proposal itself just provide a high level review. They'll be doing customer outreach and coordination, which is a big factor associated with this. They'll be doing the property appraisals, the title research, and then eventually recording these easements. But it's 23 total easements, and it'll provide easier access for everyone involved. At this point, we're seeking approval of the award of the easement acquisition services contract with PPS, and I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
For these 23 properties, they're all permanent easement?
There'll be permanent easements. Some of them will be over City of Concord easements, existing ones. We have to record them that way, and that's what we've done on previous projects as well.
And quite a handful through here that we have handshake agreements with property owners, and the way properties change hands in this area and is going to continue to develop and grow. And the fact that this is one of our core arteries that we have to maintain access to, we just wanted to take the step to make sure we had I's dotted, T's crossed, documented access to.
I was gonna say, this is a complicated area. You've got easements over easements.
Oh, it's,
Already, looking at the map, I already saw two places where there are conservation easements.
yes, so. We felt it was a good time, as good a time as we're ever gonna have to make sure we secure these.
Motion to approve the Rocky River Sewer Rehab Easement Acquisition Services.
Second that. Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. All right, Chad, we're gonna talk about our meeting schedule. Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. We had made a change a little over a year ago to move the meetings to Wednesday. And it appears that conflict has been resolved. It actually created another conflict with the quarterly summits that the county commissioners do. So just wanted to have for discussion and consideration among the board to move the meetings back to a Thursday, 5 o'clock, third Thursday meeting time, starting in 2026, starting in January of 26. So I would just open that to discussion or questions.
There's no concerns, a resolution to amend the schedule accordingly. There's such a motion.
Feel good that it's not gonna conflict again. I would just ask, we don't change it again. Because this is conflicting with me, but it's something I'm willing to change. However,
You don't want to do it again.
I don't want to do it again because I already changed it once.
Okay.
So that would just be my input would be, I don't know, we can't make everybody happy, but.
Right.
let's not change
Since
it
I'm
again.
the one who has to
Sitting-
change, and I might not be here for long term, so it doesn't
good.
bother me. I'm good.
And again, I was just bringing that up
No,
for
I'm good. I'm
consideration to
just saying, can we not change it again?
yes, to make you feel we'd gone 20 plus years with it at the same time, I
It's
think.
Tuesday better.
Yeah.
Thursdays are good.
All right.
I'll make a motion to support the resolution.
Okay. Got a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, we just had a long discussion. I don't know if we need to have any more discussion about the.
I do have two things. Thomas and myself each have a thing that last time it was brought up by Daryl and discussed by the group, some other alternatives that while we are talking through this and the jurisdictions are doing their work for us to look at, we did take a quick look between board meetings at those. One option discussed was considering talking to Albemarle about the possibility of pumping wastewater down to Albemarle. They do have a resource there that is they're not utilizing their permit limits there. We did look into that and confirm that. One thing we determined, depending on the route you took, it was going to be about a 25 to 30 mile pumping effort, probably in the 3 to 4 pump station effort as well to get there. I did look back at some studies we did back when we considered whether it would make sense to pump Muddy Creek to Rocky River versus expanding Muddy Creek the last time. That in itself was looking at about a 12-mile route with 3 pump stations. And the numbers very quickly showed that it didn't pencil out versus treatment cost. Did recognize the treatment costs then versus now were different, but so are pump station costs. And so are our operational costs for pump stations. Also looked into the fact of that, Albemarle dealt with the same issues that Cabarrus County dealt with in the 2000s of losing a lot of industry and losing a lot of flow within their system, but has not been blessed to the level that Cabarrus County has been to have that growth be replaced by residential, commercial, and even some industrial flows to the level that we have. And it's really created a lot of challenges from them from a utility standpoint and operational standpoint. We did look into a little bit of their compliance background that they've had over the past within their collection system and their wastewater system. And I don't know that that's something that we would want to get involved with necessarily. I think it would be a factor we would have to strongly consider before we were looking to partner with them. So right now, I see a lot of negatives and not as many positives from a quick high level look at that. That doesn't mean that it's something we have to eliminate as any form of a possibility. But I do think we have some other options that are going to be better suited or better uses of our money. But I think I didn't really realize it was going to be that far of a run, but it's a pretty far run there, and there's a pretty big ridge between here and there. The other thing we did recognize is it would not provide us an IBT benefit because they discharged in Long Creek, which flows to Rocky River. So that does not flow. They discharge that into the Rocky River. So when that had the dual benefit of potentially some IBT benefits, then that gave it a little bit more of a positive. So that's kind of an update on that option. Thomas is going to talk a little bit real quick on the package plant and the permit side of that, whether it provided us any permit advantages from a nutrient limit.
Sure. And the whole nutrient limit discussion, to be fair, within our basin, it's a new thing for all utilities across our basin. This is something we are all adjusting to and all kind of newly aware of for our particular situation. So we looked at a couple scenarios, things like if we built a new smaller plant, something a 3 to 4 MGD plant or maybe smaller or bigger. We do feel like that there is a high potential for anything that we would do there, that we would encounter nutrient limits with that, which would have a high cost per gallon to implementing wherever that was. There are some economies of scale on implementing things at a larger plant versus a smaller plant. There are also some things to consider with regards to plants that are spread out, with regards to O&M considerations, labor spread out and, needing to provide maintenance, different places, that sort of thing as well. So that would have if we build a smaller plant somewhere, that would have the potential for no nutrient limits to come into place at Rocky River for now, but with some upcoming permit cycle into the foreseeable future. We imagine that nutrient limits will come into play somehow regardless. So the bubble permit, I don't know if that's a concept folks are familiar with here, but Charlotte Water deals with a bubble permit for, I believe, 3 or 4 of their plants. Is it 4, George? Now, I guess with Long Creek, with Stowe. And so they deal with a bubble permit relative to phosphorus. So they have an overall mass loading of phosphorus they can discharge from that area of their system overall, and it's up to them to figure out within those treatment plants how they do that. And so a bubble permit for nitrogen and phosphorus is a possibility with that as well. So I guess really the conclusion, and we can certainly entertain any questions you might have, but in conclusion, we believe that nutrient limits are possible in the foreseeable future regardless. And we would expect nutrient limits at this point based on what we know for any expansion beyond 34 at Rocky River or beyond 1 at Muddy Creek.
So we feel pretty confident that even the 2 million re-rate is gonna get,
Yes.
okay.
It is. I think our only really potential to avoid that would be engaging, a legal team to challenge that, I think. And again, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze on that because the nutrient limits, they're coming. I started here in 2007 and I was told by 2020 we would have nutrient limits, and then it was by 2025, and now they're saying, who knows when it'll be, but it's coming at some point.
Is there a legislative angle to that beyond legal?
I don't know if there would be or not. That would have to get pretty creative, I would imagine. So what I'm imagining, if we want to build if we wanted to build a package plant, they would probably hit us or tie us into some type of a bubble permit where Rocky River and that plant would be permitted together with discharge limits. I don't imagine them letting us evade that really their goal is they don't want more nitrogen that's being discharged right now going to Bullet Falls. That's their goal. They're acknowledging that it's your existing plants, it's your existing permits, the existing way you're operating. As your flow goes up, you are going to discharge some more. But I think as quickly as they can, whether it's this next permit cycle or the one after that, they will start involving nutrients in those. But with a compliance schedule. So,
And as long as expansion at Rocky River is inevitable, like it's still gonna be most cost effective to do it and do it there.
yeah, I truly believe so.
Shannon, do we need to turn the fire down under the fish?
I was like, I smell something burning.
But George, I know you're here this evening, from Brown and Cobble. Do you have anything to add or correct from that?
No, on the legal aspect of things, the state wants to control nutrients and they are using a false reason that legally you all can challenge. Because of the bureaucracy of implementing a nutrient management plan, which will be the proper way, it will take them 10 years to enforce the nutrients. They use something else that if you were to challenge, you could get some short-term relief on nutrients. But we know they are coming. So a legal challenge will take you this far, but not far enough.
Are there other entities in the same boat?
I
Statewide?
do know that Charlotte, so now we're talking about the Rocky River Basin, right?
Just the Rocky River. It's not happening any,
This is new, these nutrient limits are new for the Rocky River.
just the Rocky River.
It's happening elsewhere as well.
Yes.
In
but
the
they're
High
new for us.
Point, Greensboro area, High Rock Lake, it is happening there.
I guess if there's a collection of jurisdictions dealing with this statewide, then is that a legal angle that collectively we try to get some relief?
We know there is a weakness for the Rocky River Basin that you could challenge, but again, in 10 years, they can come back and tell you, you gotta do it. So at that point, whatever you have built, you have to go retrofit it and take care of it.
So the nutrient management plan, we believe is coming regardless. That's just a longer, slightly longer term.
Well, it sounds like if we go, plenty of time to talk about it, on a legal route, then probably need to understand what a future retrofit might look like too, before we make that call. Figure out what we're delaying, at least at a broad outlook.
Something more expensive.
Hey,
Right.
somebody else's problem, but we're here for
Twice
more
as
than
much.
just next year.
Twice as much.
By commissioning us to study the 54 MGD, it's all out, all inclusive scope. So you cover all your angles by that. And then by elimination, you can figure out how much it'll cost a 48 or a 45 or a 50 or anything below 54. But by 54, you kind of cover everything. It's easier to subtract things than having to add.
Sure. Okay, good. Good to know. Okay, any other discussion topics? No. All right, you got any updates for us, Chad?
Quick and easy, so nothing major here. One, I want to provide another update on our wastewater flows we've been seeing here at the plant. We talk about rainfall a lot. We talk about the I&I project that we're doing work on here on several projects. But this month so far, we're at 18.67 is our actual flow. This month, we were 19.2, I think it was, or 19.4 last month. It was something in the low 19s last month. To give you some reference, earlier this year, we had a month we were at almost 25 million gallons a day. So that just shows you during really wet periods, we have 5, 6, upwards of 7 million gallons a day of rainfall. groundwater finding its way. I do believe that our weather pattern has shifted quite a bit. I've seen groundwater levels drop down to levels I haven't seen in a while. We're seeing the reservoir starting to drop a little quicker than we like, that are starting to move a little quicker. But right now, comparing last year to this year, we're about 870,000 gallons a day less this year than we were last year. So barring a really wet December, the January true up, square up, which takes into account what was connected in the last 6 months of this year, along with the change in calendar year flow, will be a pretty significant number that will go to the jurisdictions. Obviously, with the understanding we could turn around and be very wet next year, so obviously acknowledging that and knowing that. So far, year to date, we're 36 inches of rain. Typical is 45, 46, I believe it is. So we are, we're maybe 85%, 90% of our normal rainfall. We're not dramatically under an average year, but we are under an average year. And this is the first year we can say that in about 6 years. So our flows definitely have been impacted over the last few years from the rain, and we're seeing that modify some. This takes us back to a flow that's lower than our 2020 flow. So in 2020, we were almost 22 million gallons a day in 2020, and we're going to be around 21 or so this year, it appears. So been a big impact. So I just wanted to update everybody on that. We'll have more final numbers. Last one I have is December meeting. That's something in the past we have had here recently. In recent years, we've had a lot going on, but I wanted to bring it up to the board. That date would be like the 21st or
17th.
Oh, 17th. I think it was later than that. So the 17th. So just wanted to open that up. I think as a staff, we don't have anything that if we don't have action in December that is going to hold anything up from a staff level, just so you know that.
Are there any thoughts on that from the board?
I don't think you're gonna hurt any feelings if you put December on.
Do we have a motion to cancel the December 17th meeting?
We moved.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The last thing I want to mention to the board is I'm going to be reaching out to each, the board members of each jurisdiction, trying to find some time between now and like the first couple weeks of January that we can find a time maybe to get together, whether it's grab lunch or come over for a meeting. I just think it'd be a good opportunity for us all as we're moving through this process that we discussed at length tonight, to have an opportunity to sit down and talk about where each jurisdiction is at, what you may need, what's that at. So I will be sending out emails to each group or individual from jurisdictions and trying to find a time. I know between now and the end of the year is a fun time to find time, but I'll be sending that out. That's all I had.
Okay.
One last question for William, if you don't mind, Mike, it was back to the rates, make sure I understand this, since I might be able to ask it in December, is if we change past 36, last meeting we discussed, so the 36, we're doing the 5-year historical, or we set that here at the board level. If we go 45 and then living that 9 differently, is that a board level decision? Or is there something in our inner local agreements that
It would be in the interlocal.
there is something in
Yeah,
there that
we would have to go back and amend it. So right now it goes to 30. So we'll be in the process probably early 2026 of amending it to allocate the 30 to 34, which I understand this board has kind of conceptually agreed to continue what we did for the 30. But then after 34, yeah, we could revisit how we divvy up any additional.
the additional above that. Well, I think we agreed to go up to 36 with how we do it.
Correct.
Right now, if you have that,
Yeah, I think the understanding, kind of the agreement was that the 36 is kind of a re-rating, but then you're also probably going to potentially be doing some nutrients along with that ties into the capacity as a whole, and would affect how it's been paid into historically. One thing I do want to make sure the board knows, if we go to 36 and we have to do nutrients, at that point, even if Charlotte Water is not a partner from a capacity standpoint, they will be a partner in that project at about 26-27% of the cost to put nutrient limits on the plant. So they will be required to pay for the nutrient treatment of the flow that they own within the plant. That will not be on the back of WSAC ratepayers. That would be on Charlotte Water ratepayers there for their 8 mg. So 8 MGD of the 36 MGD, they would pay that portion of the nutrient cost to add the nutrient limits. So that'll be significant.
To get our boards to reauthorize, you know, from 30 to 34 or 6. And then we're gonna have to go back again. And I think it's anticipated with this group, if we do that. For anything above 36, it's probably gonna be some different calculation for debt rate.
90% Harrisburg.
That's what I'm hearing.
We get 90% of the flow, we'll pay 90% of it.
Hear that?
I heard it. It's on.
Sounds like a bargain to me.
Sell it back.
We got a document.
We the last interlocal, because I was thinking last time that we agreed to go ahead and get that in motion. Are we?
That's correct. We
Is it
will
motion?
be, so the one step and Chad's taking care of this, but it just, we gotta do it as the Charlotte Water Amendment. Remember where they're giving up one of the million. And so we understand, I think that's going to Charlotte City Council to approve that, whatever their step is. And so when that gets done in December, then we will then go probably in January, start that process.
They're not busy with anything.
All right, anything else from the board or staff? All right, we'll open it up for public comments. Anybody like to speak to this board about any item? Take those now. Okay, hearing none. We have a very, very, very quick closed session. Do I have a motion to go into closed session under GS 143, 31811A1?
So moved. Second,
Second,
whichever one, so first or
just
second.
pick one.